Coming up right now here on the Raiders Report, cut candidates after the 2026 NFL Draft and UDFA signings. The way that I look at cut candidates are players that were on the roster last year that might not make it this season. Obviously, as it stands right now, we're right around 91 total players. You got to get all the way down to 53. I'm really trying to look at players that are on that bubble that might not make this squad. So what I decided to do is give you 5 players on offense, 5 players on defense coming up right now. Shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks, because today's Raiders Cut Candidates is presented by them. My name is Mitchell Renz. You're watching the Raiders Report, and I typically start all my videos on the offensive side of the football first, but you know what? Today, we are going to start on the defensive side. One of the things that I also, when I talk about cut candidates, is I'm going to tell you how much money the Raiders could save, because the way that I look at it is if you're going to save some money, maybe you could invest that into some potential free agents. And if you didn't see my free agent targets video that I put out earlier in the week, please go check it out. Let's go to the first name here. It's going to be cornerback Decamerion Richardson. These are not ranked in any particular order. It's just me just giving you names to keep in mind. If the Silver and Black decide to move on from the third-year cornerback who's going on his third different regime, they save $874,000 and they eat $401K this season. Here's why I think that they could end up moving on from him. You drafted Jermod Coy, you drafted Treydan Stukes, you drafted Zeke Massis. They clearly wanted a new DB room, and because there are some concerns of maturity, I think is the best way to put it. Decamerion's an outstanding athlete. Anybody on the Raiders would tell you he's an outstanding athlete. But does he offer you a lot of special teams value? He really struggled on special teams last season. He needs to get his act together, but the upside is there. He probably could have benefited from actual good coaching. I kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's no doubt a cut candidate this upcoming season. Let's go to safety, Tristin McCollum, who actually got some good reps for the Raiders last season at safety. Now, we didn't have a true free safety, and because the Raiders drafted Treydan Stukes and also his teammate Dalton Johnson, I think that that's going to be a really tough spot for McCollum to end up making this roster. But what's interesting is, and you're going to see a few players like that today, the Raiders did sign him to his exclusive rights free agent tender on April 3rd, 2026. So some people might hear that and see that and go, oh, well, that's obviously a guy that Spytek and Clint Kubiak want to keep on this roster, which is why I'm doing this video, because there is a chance that they could end up moving on from him. Because if you do, you eat nothing. No money is eaten, and you save $1.1 million. Yes, that 1.1 is not a lot of money, but can I take that money and can I potentially invest that into another player, like a veteran, to actually help our squad? Let's go to the next position here. It's going to be linebacker Cody Lindenberg, who was drafted in the 7th round last season here by the Las Vegas Raiders. I like Lindenberg. I think he's more of a special teams guy. I've been talking to some people close to him. He's been working his tail off this entire offseason. If they cut him, you save $934,000. You eat $106,000. He's really just a special teams body. And because this organization decided to sign Segun Laube in the offseason, I do think that kind of hurts Lindenberg. Also, if I were to be evaluating this roster and if I were to pick a linebacker, do you pick Lindenberg? Do you pick Tommy Eichenberg? I think Tommy Eichenberg is more football ready to be able to contribute on the actual defense, though, with a brand new regime, you can keep Lindenberg on that rookie contract a little bit longer than you can somebody like Eichenberg. But clearly the Raiders made a point this offseason that they want to switch the linebacker room. They want to go 3-4. I actually think that hurts Lindenberg's chances of getting on the field because he's not going to get on the field over Quay. He's not going to get on the field over Nakobe. And now he's fallen down that board a little bit more. Just saying, it is a potential cut candidate for somebody that was just drafted last year in the 7th round. To make sure that I don't get cut off of this show, shout out to our sponsor here, Prize Picks. You guys can get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You just got to make sure that you use code HMA. It's available in all 50 states. You can make player, team, and culture picks. I love being able to play Prize Picks also this time of the year. Even though there's no football going on, to have the ability to watch games that I care about, to have the ability to say, you know what am I going to do tonight? Oh, I'm going to watch a baseball game. Oh, I'm going to watch a basketball game. When it comes to the Raiders, obviously we're going to be here watching it, But at this time of the year, I like to be able to find ways to entertain myself. And when I get a Prize Picks lineup in on a game, whether it's a playoff game, whether it's a regular season game, I'm just so much more interested in watching that game from top to bottom. There's no doubt about it. Also, one of the things that I love to be able to do at this time of the year is I like to look at the more or lesses for the Raiders and just see where can I win some money. I look at Ashton Jeanty right now, and I think about what the Raiders did this offseason. They invested in that offensive line. You can't tell me they didn't. Tyler Linderbaum, they drafted Trey Zuhn. This is a team that's going to run the football much better with Clint Kubiak. I look at the 2.5 receiving yards for Jeanty, and Moore sounds really good. He had 5 last year, 974.5 rushing yards. He had 975 last season. Give me the Moore there. The receiving yards, 349.5. He had more last season. 5.5 rushing touchdowns. He had 5. Ashton Jeanty on Prize Picks is a spot where I want a lot of Raiders fans to look because you can go more, and go more. And I really think you're going to be able to build a really strong season-long lineup with Prize Picks. And if you've heard me talk about season-long Prize Picks, you'll see Ashton Jeanty is in that lineup. And if you didn't see it, it might be because you don't follow me. And if you want to follow me, you can. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365 on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today with the link that's going to be in the comments and in the description. Use code HMA. It's on your screen right there in the bottom hand of your corner. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Let's now go to, and I know it's defense, but I say this all the time. In my mind, maybe it's the fantasy football guy in me. Defense, special teams. Let's go with place kicker Matt Gay. The Raiders wanted to be able to add some competition, and they did. As a UDFA, they brought in Kansei Matsuzawa, the Tokyo Toe, as a UDFA. And I'll tell you this, I'm looking on social media. I think if you were to ask social media who would they want, Matt Gay or the Tokyo Toe, I think that they would point towards the toe, though just don't tell David Zuhn. His 2 best years, though, in the NFL were with Joe DeCamillis, the Raiders' new special teams coach, in 2021 and 2022. I believe the Raiders want Matt Gay to win this job, and I think that they want him to win this job because of the money. The money is clearly outlining that. The Raiders would eat $1.4 million. It's not a ton of money, but this is them showing you that they're investing in Matt Gay. You save $738,000, but there's no doubt. I mean, if the Tokyo Toe is a better kicker than Matt Gay, that's not going to be the amount of money where they go, all right, we can't do that. $1.4 million is Mark Davis looking at you and me and going, do you need $1 because you dropped one? If they need to move on, they absolutely will do it. So let's play a little bit of a game here because this is what the Raiders Report is all about. We are literally chat sports, so let's chat about it. Who do y'all think wins the kicker job? Do you think it's going to be Matt Gay? Type MG down below. Do you think it's Kansei Matsuzawa? Type KM. Let me know down below because for me personally, here's how I'm going to answer this bad boy. I'm going to say Matt Gay ends up winning this job, but I am also recording this video in April, right? I'm making this video right now in April, and I believe because of the money and I believe because of the Joe DeCamillis ties, that's what I'm looking at now. But I also am looking at that Hawaiian kicker, somebody that had a kicking average of 93% in college. He's got a lot of really good numbers. He continues to grow. He continues to get better. He had a long of 52. I mean, look at the extra points. The numbers there are really solid from top to bottom. That's going to be, truthfully, one of the best competitions that we look at all offseason. And for that reason, I think Matt Gay could potentially get cut. And, we're going to stick here with special teams. Let's go with Alex Ward, the long snapper. And just like I said about Gay, the Raiders brought in some competition for Ward, and they brought in Penn State long snapper Tyler Dzansky, who is another really good and accurate snapper. If the Raiders decide to move on from Ward, you save $1.1 million. You eat absolutely nothing. So, when you know that there's no risk, that's kind of when you see some of these things end up happening. And it could also be if it's Ward and Dzansky and it's a coin flip, if the Raiders want to sign a veteran, maybe just move on from Ward because you'll be able to save more money. But he was the long snapper for the Rams from 2023 to 2025. No overlap at all with Joe DeCamillis, but also when you work with Sean McVay, that has some value to this organization, and it should have value to every organization. But because of that experience, that could be the extra reason why maybe they decide to keep Alex Ward. We're about to go to the offensive side of the football here in just a second, but I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you answer yes to any of this, I hope you hit that subscribe button. If you feel like you learned something today, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy free Raiders videos every single day, hit that subscribe button. If you want to join the world's largest Raiders community, hit that subscribe button with over 224,000 subs. If you answered yes to any of those, I hope you hit that sub button. Let's now go to the offensive side of the football. I'm going to start here with running back Dylan Laube, and I almost feel bad because I feel like I've talked about Laube in this exact same show so many different times, and he keeps on proving me wrong, and he's no doubt a fan favorite. He's no doubt a locker room favorite. He's a hardworking guy. But if you cut him, you save $1.04 million. He was a 6th-round pick in 2024, so you're going on your 3rd different regime. The hard part about Laube is the ball security. I think all of us Raider fans wanted to see Laube succeed because he was a fun story in 2024. He was catching the football. He was doing a lot of good stuff. But then it seemed like every time he touched the ball in preseason or in a game, he was putting the ball on the ground. That just simply can't happen from one of your bottom of the roster guys. The Raiders traded up for Mike Washington Jr. You got Roman Hemby as a UDFA. For those reasons, I could see the Raiders moving on from Laube. Let's go to another wide receiver here, and he's a fan favorite. Same thing, Shedrick Jackson. He made a beautiful catch last season on that touchdown throw from Kenny Pickett on that post route. It was probably one of the best throws I've seen Pickett make in 3 years. Hell, you may argue it might have been the best throw we saw all year last season from the Raiders. Not saying a lot, but if the Raiders move on from Jackson, you eat nothing. You save $1.1 million. He is the great nephew of Bo Jackson and does offer you some special teams depth. So because he's got that Bo Jackson connection, there are fans that just naturally gravitate towards him. And, I'm not going to lie to you, I root for him just that little extra percent because if you're related to the greatest, my favorite Raider player, one of the favorites of all time, one of the greatest athletes of all time, there's just that connection there. It's kind of like how when we were talking about Zachariah Branch and Cliff Branch, it was like, oh, I like that. That's just a little bit of a cherry on top. But the Raiders drafted Malik Benson. The Raiders signed E.J. Williams. You also signed 2 other UDFA wide receivers. But I think it's also just the fact of this team showed that they still believe in Jack Bech and Dante Thornton Jr. So for that reason, I don't think Shedrick Jackson ends up making the squad because it's going to come down to this to me. I really think when you look at the Raiders wide receiver room, if they keep 6 receivers, it's either Dante Thornton Jr. or Shedrick Jackson. Maybe and just maybe there might be another name that gets thrown into the mix there. But I'm going to say between these 2 guys, if you had to pick, type DTJ for Dante Thornton Jr., or if you're going to go with Shedrick Jackson, give me an SJ down below. I don't know what an SJ sounds like, but it sounds kind of interesting. Now, I'm going to go with Dante Thornton Jr., but that's because I'm making that decision right now, and I want to see Dante still grow May, June, and July. But I do want to be very clear. If Dante Thornton Jr. has not impressed this coaching staff and at all, they will pick Jackson over Thornton because Jackson offers you stuff on special teams. Thornton doesn't offer you anything on special teams. The only other player that I might throw into that conversation is Justin Shorter because he's a big outside receiver and because he can play a little bit of that wide receiver tight end hybrid role, which this team is definitely going to do this upcoming season. Before we get into some more cut candidates here in just a moment, if anybody out there wants to get their hands on some Raiders Report merch, whether it's the hat that I have on, whether it's the hoodie that I swear every time I talk to Raider Ron, he's wearing. I think it's glued on his body, and he's too afraid to tell me that he accidentally glued it on him. Whether it's this T-shirt here, I was talking to Rebel the other day. Rebel was, he told me he was walking around UNLV, and he's like, nobody's shouting me out, but the other day, I forget where you were telling me, Rebel, you were at some store, and you're like, I ran into a Raiders fan. Also, when we were live the other day on the show, somebody said that they were at work in Idaho. I didn't even know people worked in Idaho. No, I'm just kidding. I've never been to Idaho. But they, at the same office, some guy walked up to him and said, oh, shit, you're a Raiders Report watcher. And maybe you shouldn't wear your Raiders Report stuff at work because that's going to tell your boss and everybody there that you don't do anything during Friday happy hour. But obviously I kid, obviously I joke. But truly the reason why I want people to get our gear, and you can get it at chatsports.com/RRshop. It's going to be in the links down below. It's going to be in the comment section. let's keep on growing this awesome community here. I really do think if somebody sees somebody in a Raiders Report shirt, go up, introduce yourself, say hello. You never know, right? We talk to each other all the time on this program. Let's keep growing this thing, not only on YouTube, but also outside the world, because the world right now, I think we can all agree, it needs it. Let's go to a tight end here, Albert. I can never pronounce the last name. I'm just going to call him Albert O. And what's interesting about Albert O is he is a better blocker than Ian Thomas, and he did play one season with Clint Kubiak in 2022 when he was with the Denver Broncos. It was a limited role for Kubiak, but still, it's 1 year in a Kubiak offense. The Raiders, even though they didn't draft a tight end, I would say at best he's tight end 4. Plus, on top of that, the Raiders have Connor Hayward. So if you are going to keep an extra tight end, Hayward can play fullback, I would say better than Albert O can. And then you're just looking at the money. Being able to save $1.1 million with this tight end room. Again, we're looking at some players on this show. You see that amount of money. If we cut all these guys, we're adding shit, man, $5, $6, $7 million. I'll probably do an entire video. If you cut all these players, we can go sign this guy. We can go sign that guy. That's how you get better in the offseason. Let's go to offensive tackle Dalton Wagner, and this one pains me a little bit. Throughout the years, I've gotten to know some of the offensive linemen on this team, whether that be shout out to my guy, Jermaine Illuminor, shout out to Colt Miller, who have always, been a part of this. Even he don't play offensive line, but big shout out to big time Jonathan Hankins, the big boys. They've always supported me, and they've always spoken very highly about Wagner. He's an extremely hardworking guy. They love his mentality. It's just where exactly is he going to be able to fit on this team? He's been here since 2023. Now, do I think that he ends up being a practice squad guy? Yeah, that's kind of where I see Wagner going. But because the Raiders drafted Trey Zuhn, he can play guard, he can play center, but he can also play tackle. And when the Raiders talked about why they drafted Zuhn, they said that they were very impressed by his ability. It was left tackle, but still, Wagner's a right tackle. It was his ability up against Akeem Messidor or Ruben Bain in Miami in the college football playoffs. But to be able to cut somebody, eat nothing, and save $885,000, I see the Raiders keeping 9 offensive linemen because of the overall depth and flexibility. Let's now go to the final name here. It's Will Putnam. And some of you might look at that and go, well, duh, Mitch, the Raiders are going to move on from Putnam. We do have to remember that the Raiders actually officially re-signed him on April 6, 2026. This is kind of, getting pretty close to the draft. So some people might think, oh, well, he's in the plans. He's not in the plans. One of the big reasons why the Raiders drafted a guy like Trey Zuhn is because they never want to see Will Putnam play football again on that offensive line. And that's harsh. It's critical. But it's probably the worst game I've ever seen an offensive lineman play when they put him at center last season. No disrespect to Putnam. They put him in a situation which kind of set him up to fail. They could have gone some different areas there, but that's Brennan Carroll. That was the Pete Carroll-led Raiders. But again, you can cut him. You eat nothing. You save $1 million. Because the Raiders, and this is the reason why I featured him on this show, they did re-sign him. But there's no chance they're going to be bringing him back because, again, I think one of the biggest reasons why they signed Trey Zuhn, because they don't want to ever have to watch a bad offensive line game ever again. And with Rick Dennison, I hope that that's the case. So our Raiders cut candidates here on offense. You got Dylan Laube, Shedrick Jackson, Albert O, Dalton Wagner, Will Putnam. And then on the defense/special team side, I'm going to go with Decamerion Richardson, Tristin McCollum, Cody Lindenberg, Matt Gay, and Alex Ward. If you made it this far in the video and you learned something, please reminder, hit that subscribe button.